question.
All right, moving on. Item 1D, approval of minutes from the September 18th, 2023 regular meeting.
I move that the minutes of the September 18th, 2023 regular meeting be approved.
Motion by Mrs. Shaw, support by Mrs. Coleman. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Goboleski?
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw? Yes. Mrs. Coleman? Yes. Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mrs. Mondial?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, that motion passes. Item 1E, superintendent report.
I tell you, that's awesome. I really was looking at that turkey and I just thought it was so cool. Like, I think, and it created a conversation around the office of what do we do in retirement? Like, what are those things we could do? And we could start making stuff like that. Or I was thinking, I think someone has like a sand, her husband does sandblasting on the side. Like, what would you do in retirement? You have to find something that you can make a little bit of money with, so. But that is so cool. So, anyway, all right, moving on. It's time to do our annual audit report. We just got out of finance and Plant Moran and Jeff Higgins is here, and I'll let Rachel kind of lead the audit report.
Okay, well, all I was going to say was welcome to Jeff Higgins from Plant Moran, who is here to give you some information about our audit report.
Well, thank you and good evening. It's a tough act to follow. I don't like to be behind presentations like that. That was fantastic, really awesome, very cool thing. But with that, we will segue into the audited financial statements. So again, my name is Jeff Higgins. I'm a partner with Plant Moran. We're the firm that conducts the audit, and here to talk about the audit for the June 30th, 2023 year end for the school district. There's 3 documents that come out of the audit process. There's the financial report with supplemental information. This contains the district's audited financial statement. There's a federal award supplemental information report. This contains our separate audit of the district's federal programs. And finally, the 3rd document is the report to the Board of Education, which provides information on the audit process and results. As the district's auditors, it's our responsibility to express an opinion on the financial statements. So we base our audit in accordance with auditing standards and generally accepted accounting principles. And I'm happy to report here that based on the results of our audit, we've rendered what's called an unmodified or a clean opinion on the district's financial statements. This is the highest level of assurance that we can present as auditors on a set of financial statements. So again, an overall clean audit report. With that, we will touch upon some of the financial highlights for the district, again, for the year ended June 30th, 2023. This first slide represents the general fund assets and liabilities. And just keep in mind that the various activities of the district are recorded in various funds. The general fund represents the primary operating fund of the district, so we're going to focus the presentation here on the general fund. And again, here we have the assets and liabilities for the general fund. You see there's total assets of approximately $22.9 million. They are primarily composed of about $12.9 million in receivables. And including the receivables is roughly $10 million due from the state of Michigan, which represents the July and August state aid payments due to the district as of June 30th, 2023. And roughly $2 million in receivables due from federal programs that are owed to the state. So again, the $12.9 million of receivables. Then your other second largest asset would be cash investments, which is approximately $9.4 million. On the liability side of the ledger, then you see there's total liabilities of the district as of June 30th, about 6.2 million. The largest there would be accrued payroll and other related liabilities. This really represents wages and benefits that are due primarily to teachers. The teachers are essentially have fulfilled their obligation, their services at the end of June, but because the vast majority are paid over the summer months, we do accrue that July and August payments over as of June 30th. And again, that would be roughly in total for about $3.2 million. This next slide, we then look at general fund revenue and other financing sources in 2023 compared to 2022. You see that in 2023, there was roughly total revenue in the general fund of about $70 million, $70.4 million. The state revenue makes up the vast majority of that. You'll see 77%. And the vast majority of that is really driven by the state foundation allowance. So again, the state sets a per pupil foundation, and the district has little control over that. The foundation per pupil for June 30, 2023 was $9,150 per pupil. So you take that times the official pupil count of about 5,100 students, and that alone drives about 67% of the revenue. Then you can see obviously there's federal revenue there. So other, interdistrict revenue, which is funding from the ISD. But really the key takeaway is that on the revenue side of the equation, local districts have very little ability to control the revenue. It really is primarily driven in Lansing through the setting of the foundation allowance, and then based on the pupils that are enrolled for that year. The next slide, and then take a look at the expenditures in the general fund. And this shows expenditures by function. You can see again, total expenditures about 66.8 million for the year ended June 30th, 2023. And the vast majority of that is, again, you see roughly 59% would be instructional expenditures, then supporting services about 32%, and then community services and other making up the balance. This next slide again looks at expenditures, but this looks at a little bit different way. This is by object. So again, you can see over 66 million of expenditures, roughly 52 million was related to salaries and benefits. So essentially 78% of the general fund expenditures go to salary and benefit costs. And as you would expect, a school district being a service business, you would anticipate that the vast majority of the expenses would of course be salary and benefit related costs. This next graph then looks at fund balance. So we talked at the beginning of the presentation about the assets and liabilities of the district. So your assets were about $23 million, liabilities of about $6 million. The difference of those two is what's called the fund balance. You can see at June 30th, 2023, the fund balance level is about $16.7 million. Fund balance represents effectively the financial reserves of the district. And it's important because it does allow the district to deal with unplanned, essentially financial uncertainty. The extent that there's unplanned expenses that might arise, or fluctuations in revenue, or unplanned enrollment losses, any other sort of funding instability, the fund balance allows districts to manage with those manage and plan those uncertainties a little bit without having to take immediate and drastic action. It really provides some level of cushion, if you will, to deal with financial uncertainty. So it is an important metric that we look at when we're assessing school districts' financial statements. And this next slide then really gets into how we typically conduct that assessment. So typically we look at fund balance as a percentage of the expenditures. So again, if we take our fund balance about 16.7 million as of June 30th, 2023, divide that by your expenditures of 66 million, that gives you a fund balance percentage of about 25%. This graph, you can see for the last 5 years where that fund balance percentage has been at. And that also, to provide some context, gives you the state average. So school districts have not reported yet for June 30th, 2023. So 2022 is the last year we have the state average number. But you can see the state average as of 2022 is about 19.9%. So Heartland was right at about the state average for 2022. You can see, obviously in 2021, there was a pretty significant increase in fund balance. And that really is just driven through the significant dollars. So you can see, obviously, we were going through the pandemic in 2020, and with a lot of the funding that's come through the federal government, and since then the state economy has done, significantly better, and the state has been able to inject more resources into school finances. So there has been some increases over the last few years, and you can see that last couple of years, Heartland's been at or above that state average. Again, we don't have numbers for 2023 statewide, but I would expect, again, the state average to go up just anecdotally based on what we've seen other districts coming in at. This next slide then provides some context for Heartland and some of your neighbors and some of your peer districts, just to look at instructional expenditures as a percentage of total expenditures. And so this is really comparing your instructional expenditures to the operating expenditures, and compares it to some of your peer districts. You can see for 2022, 2023, for Heartland, that percentage was about 62%. Again, we don't have full information yet for other districts, but comparing that from a year ago, similar size districts, and that would be districts between 5,000 and 10,000 students. There's roughly 40 of those in the state. That was about 64%. Statewide, that number is about 61%, and Livingston County was about 62%. So again, as you can see from here, that Heartland compares very well to its peer districts in the number of dollars that are getting spent, directly on instructional related expenses. This last slide, just again, provides some demographic information. Again, we talked about how the majority of the funding for the district comes from it's on a per pupil basis through the foundation allowance. This gives a 5-year history essentially of Heartland's enrollment based on the official state numbers, and then sort of shows also that line would be all districts across the state. So you can see, Heartland's enrollment, if you go back to 2019 to 2023, is down about 5.6%, and statewide enrollment figures really reflect the same level of decline. So again, it's a challenge for districts because as you are funded on a per pupil basis, that just means the math of pupils times foundation, it just results in less funding on a per pupil or on an overall basis. So again, it creates cash flow and management challenges for districts to deal with the reduction in funding and how to then layer that through as you're managing the expenditure side of your budget. So that concludes the formal part of the presentation. Again, I think the keys are, again, you have ended the year with fund balance level, what I would anticipate would be at or maybe slightly above the state average, and overall a clean audit opinion, an unmodified opinion. Overall, it was a very clean audit process, and certainly we'd like to thank Rachel Boyce and the financial team. The audit was they're well prepared and had things very well organized for us, and it was a very clean process this year. So we do thank you.
Any questions? Again, Jeff, thank you, and thank you to your team, Renee and Whisper, and also to Rachel and her team who ensure that we continue to do what we need to do to move forward. So I appreciate that.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Have a safe drive home. All right, next we bring up community education. We'll start bringing our schools back to the board meetings to highlight what's happening. So we thought we'd start with community ed. So Carol, and I think you got Kim and some friends with you.
Hello, board. Thank you. As you know, community ed oversees different items or different departments in the district. We oversee the pool, the daycare, gymnastics, our preschool program, we have a Prelude theater group, and also our senior center. So tonight we're going to highlight some of the senior center programs that they run, and I'd like to introduce Kim Konarski, the director.
Hello, everybody. So some of you know me, some of you don't. I've been the senior center director now for 10 years. Still loving my job. You know, you hear these things about, you've been in it a couple of years, you kind of know what to expect. I never know what to expect. Like, I know everybody's having a great time. There's always new programs, there's new ideas, there's new things coming up. We have about 1,300 members right now that are paid membership. You don't have to be a member to participate, but you do have to be over 50. Can't tell you how many people try to sneak in. I'm 47, come on, I want to take drumming or, whatever it is, because we got some cool stuff going on. Not only do we have a calendar, I gave you guys a copy of the newsletter because we do have a monthly calendar that has a bunch of stuff on it every month. But we do have some community things that we do too that I wanted to mention. So we work with AARP to provide free tax services to seniors and low-income folks. We have a free medical loan closet that anybody in the community can come borrow wheelchairs, walkers, crutches, any of that kind of stuff that they might need. We have a local transportation service that we offer at a very affordable prices, $2 each way, $1.50 each way. I mean, it's pretty reasonable. We do have a Medicare assistance program through Catholic Charities where they come here, and if you're new to Medicare or you're looking for changes or you're confused about something, that's a free service that we do at the senior center. And then we do a Gleaners Monthly Food Mobile Pantry as well every month at the senior center, where there's about 120 households that come and get produce and meat and pantry items from us. So we're really proud to be part of this community. Thank you all for your continued support. Honestly, we're so incredibly grateful for the space that we have here in this building to be able to do what we do. And these are some members from our Strummers group. We do have a pretty big music program. So we have our choir, band, hand chimes group, our silver strummers, the recycled Rockettes. We have lots of arts and music programs. So we did ask them to come sing you a song tonight. They do headline, that's a good word, right? For open mic night. That's a monthly event that we do on Friday night, the second Friday night of the month. So our first one's coming up this Friday at the Senior Center. And they're also in our upcoming show, The Comedy Chronicles, that is happening on October 19th and 20th. So I'm gonna let them enthrall you.
Yes, we are the Silver Strummers. Monday night, we usually get together just down the hall in the music room, and we have basically, I think, 25 on the email list, but typically 12 to 16 to 18 will show up any given Monday night. So it's fortunate that we're here Monday night. My name is Ron Hutchinson. I'm Pat Corcoran.
I'm Gloria Corcoran. And I'm Alice Andrews.
We would like to do the Strummers theme song. The song comes from Ireland. It's basically here in the United States, when people are leaving after a party or a function, they say, "Get home safe." And we have a song that's called "Safe Home," a little backwards, but it's become our theme song. We sing it every Monday night at the end of our jam session. And we do it at the end of our mic night, where we get all the entertainers up on stage. And this is our final song. Out through the valley, out through the crossed over the river, I don't know. Thanks on the sorrow, thanks on the blood. Let's sing one more together. Sound so hot. Say home, say home, say home. May the light say home, say home. Tell the fiddle quiet, the whistle harsh, echo from the jigs and the reel. The dance floor is empty, farewell folks. Now it's time to be going. Here we all be. Yeah, join us. Stay home.
Recording in progress.
Stay home. Stay home. Stay home.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate what you do and letting me do what I love.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Summers. Moving on, Ms. Frazier, principal at Lakes Elementary School, and she's gonna come up with some friends into her presentation.
Oh, yes, please. Oh, they're good. I told them no pressure. They can just wait for a minute. So good evening, everyone. I'm 10 weeks in at Lakes, which I know in the grand scheme of things is a very short amount of time, but right away, what became very evident to me is Lakes has very strong connections to their community. You see it every morning at drop off and every afternoon at pickup, neighbors hanging out, talking, kids playing football, waiting while their parents are chit-chatting. It's the coolest thing to watch. It's just like a visual representation of how close-knit that community is at the building. But tonight I wanted to share with you some other ways that Lakes is connected to the community. So we're going to start internally by talking about our PTO. So we have a very strong parent-teacher organization at Lakes, and their objective is to provide our school with funds, programs, resources, and services that will enrich and maximize the education of every child, build a community among our families, and benefit the school. It's very evident in the work that they do that they absolutely meet that objective. This is my first year, but their reputation certainly precedes them. The PTO is made up of a board of leaders. So Jamie Berton, Mario Guerra, and Tracy Bonadio, Casey Gus, and Kat Wood. And I believe a couple of them were here tonight. So if you are, love for you to stand and be recognized, and thank you. They have an organizational structure, monthly meetings, different people chair events and fundraisers. We do have a teacher representative that's a part of that.
Log in and do a count. Thank you, Marcus, for your help.
And they communicate a lot over their Facebook page, but also through emails back and forth. So I asked Jamie to come tonight to share the things that the PTO has funded and provided, as well as some of the awesome events that they organize and facilitate for our students and our families.
So as Melissa has listed up here, a lot of what we fund is field trips and assemblies, different activities that the kids get to do in the school that are associated with obviously the educational activities that they have. We love buying books. That's a huge part of our funding each year. Books in the classrooms, books in the guided reading library, wherever we can buy books, we're always buying books. Last year we had the pleasure of adding to the playground, which was really exciting for us and for our kids. At the end of the school, got it new at the beginning of this year. So that was really cool. We also started up a scholarship granted to
like constitutional or something. We're going to do stop and frisk. And you're gonna have to do it. And if you don't do it, your cities, you can't walk down the street. These people, they go for a loaf of bread, they end up being shot. You see the scenes over the last few months have been the worst I've ever seen. You're out of control. And added to that now are hundreds of thousands, really millions of illegal immigrants. And these are tough people. These are tough people. These are very aggressive people. These are people that drink too much. These are people that take too much drugs. And these are very, very aggressive people. And these are also people that country thin in the caravan. They put them in, I got that whole caravan. I can't even get that.
Oh my God.
We stopped caravans. But these dictators, presidents, in many cases, friends of mine, they were very smart people. No problem. Wise people. They put caravans in, but they don't want.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry.
Okay, let's just leave it at that. All right. Sorry.
It's all good.
Sorry, Jamie.
No, that's okay. And then some of the events that we run, kind of the other half of what we do is to try and help with that community at Lakes. We just finished our fun run last Friday. It was hugely successful. We raised over $16,000 for the school. We brought back monthly popcorn days this year, and the kids are so excited. You know, one Friday a month they come in and the whole building smells like popcorn. You push that machine through the building and they get so excited. It's awesome. We just had our first family movie night of this year a couple of weeks ago. It was very, very well attended. The kids love it. They come in their pajamas and they hang out with their pillows and their blankets in the gym and watch a movie in there. We're planning for our trunk or treat for this year. That was new for us last year. This year we partnered with farms for it to make it even bigger. And we as of an hour ago, we were up to like 30 different trunks that are coming in. So we're really excited for that. And then our biggest event of the year is our Family Fun Fest, which we do in the spring. We moved it outside a couple years ago, which was hugely successful. And we have an enormous turnout every year, and the kids really, really love it.
Thank you. So I have just some photos of some of the events and playground equipment, book fair, Family Fun Fest games. So that's just some of the fun, but they do a lot of the work as well and provide a lot of extras for our kiddos. Right. So Lakes is connected with the community in more than just internally. We also have some great community partnerships, one with a local business. Lakes has a student-run credit union that operates out of the building. So I wanted to just kind of talk a little bit about the structure of that and what that looks like. This has been in place for 5 years. It was spearheaded by Stacy Hamlin. She's the Community Impact Specialist at LOC, and our 4th grade teacher, Chris Foster. The LOC Student-Run Credit Union gives our 4th graders an opportunity to experience real job skills during the school day at school in a very structured environment, working with professionals that are in the field. Interested students apply online, and then from there they have to interview with Mrs. Hamlin. And then after the interviews are complete, she chooses who will be hired for different roles based on their strengths and assigns them positions that fit their strengths while also providing them with a challenge. The positions that are there are branch managers, marketing, member service guides, and tellers. The branch managers obviously run the show. They're in charge of making sure that everything is operating smoothly and on schedule. The marketing team spreads the word around Lakes. They're in charge of advertising around the building. They do student announcements. They also run games for students. Anyone that makes a deposit gets to play a game and win some sort of candy or trinket. Our member service guides help the customers. They escort our youngest bankers to and from class to the LOC site on banking days, and they're just available to answer any questions that students have. And then our tellers handle the money. They help customers with deposits. They let their clients know how much money is in their account. They really learn and understand the importance of privacy and confidentiality through their role. So today we have 2 of our employees here with us, Ava and Claire. Ava is one of our branch managers, and Claire is part of the marketing team. So Ava and Claire, thanks for being here. This year's Student-Run Credit Union employs 20 4th graders. They come from all 4 of our 4th grade classes, and they're divided into 2 employment teams, and they alternate weeks. So we have an LOC day each week, and the different teams just rotate. So students give up some of their essential time to participate. And of course, they're learning some banking skills and practicing math and things, but what they're really learning are things like commitment, responsibility, respect, teamwork, confidentiality. So those lifelong skills that they'll take with them, even if they don't go into the world of banking. So on this presentation, I've attached the LOC student info video that goes out to students just to introduce them to the program. If you're interested, watch that. It kind of goes a little bit more in depth and talks about the application process and whatnot. So there is that. And I have one other thing to talk about and share. Another community connection that we have reaches way outside of our building, and that's Lake's work with Mott Children's Hospital. This has been something that has been kind of long-standing at different buildings, but at Lakes over the past 3 years, Lakes has donated more than $60,000 through fundraising for the little victors at University of Michigan CS Mott Children's Hospital. This whole thing is really spearheaded by our PE teacher, Matt Conway. These funds have provided MRI facades, which make the machines much less intimidating, patient medical supply bags, pediatric cancer research, and toys, clothes, and food for patients and families who will spend a lot of time on the campus of the hospital. To show appreciation for the fundraising that our students do, we have a Lakes Mott Superhero Day, where our students and staff come in their superhero gear. They participate in fun activities and events and make cards for patients. We also have a Mott Celebration Assembly where we invite some of our Mott superheroes. Often they have a connection to lakes, a student, current or former student, family member, or somebody that a student or family knows that has been going through treatment at the hospital. When they come, they share their story and experiences, and they're inducted onto our Lakes Hall of Fame. So those are some of the ways that Lakes makes community connections. You see it every day right now, you know, in the front of the building, but these are some of the deeper ways that we make those connections with our students and our parents and our families and local businesses and other community structures. So thank you for the support of Lakes, and we look forward to continuing to build those connections.
If I want to volunteer, because none of this can happen without great volunteers, with your PTO, if I want to volunteer at Lakes and be in the school and working with kids and working with you, how do I do that?
So our PTO, when they have events going, they send a lot of, you know, sign up genius type things, which go out via email. People that want to come in and volunteer in the school, they just have to, you know, follow our procedure of filling out paperwork and talking to me and working through the teacher and myself to come in and help out. We love our volunteers. So anytime we can get parents into the building, helping, either preparing things for classrooms or working with kiddos or providing any sort of help, we welcome everybody. We have some parent volunteers that are currently working with our highly capable group in the building, you know, regularly, and our popcorn makers and our people that come in and just run copies and prepare supplies. And then we have people that are coming in and giving kids extra repetitions with math facts and, you know, listening to them read a book and all sorts of ways to volunteer. So they just reach out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Yeah, any questions?
Thank you, ladies.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Last, Matt, if you come up and just give us a quick bond update. I know there's not a ton going on, but there are some things. Oop, wrong one.
So only 2 slides, make it quick. So we're still working on a few things with our summer projects. We're still working on some punch list items. This past weekend, we actually did some repairs at the high school on some items that unfortunately got a broken underground electrical line from the parking lot that we were able to fix, as well as some HVAC problems. So during that time, we try to look for areas that we can do that outside of the school day. So weekends, after the high school lets out, or the big upcoming push is going to be for October 20th when we don't have school. So they're going to be hitting farms and Oak Creek and high school really hard to clean up some of the outstanding punch list items that we still have outstanding. Baseball softball complex is underway. The restroom interior walls are going up. We did a lot of underground. We had to move some irrigation lines. We poured concrete for the press box and the bleachers. The press boxes will be going in actually this week, as well as the bleachers over there. We have the press box for the soccer field also. We did hold off on doing that project until after soccer season, until Mr. Hessler's soccer season ends over there, so that we didn't cause damage to the soccer field. Last thing we wanted to do was display soccer. And then the HCSC, the curtains were installed. They look beautiful. The high school will be getting their curtains this week, I believe on Wednesday. And then that'll wrap up really the major projects that we have from 2023, except for the punch list items. Looking over the horizon for next year, a ton of planning, designing going in for next year's projects. As we wrap up the bond, most of it is little things here and there: Creekside Elementary School, farms, building 51, HCSC, this building, and high school. We have some roofing replacements. Most of those will be a 1-for-1 replacement. High school will be a little more in depth because we do have some issues with the moisture getting behind the roof on the pool. So we're going to work to fix that problem so we don't have that problem in the future. The high school will be getting some additional parking lot replacements on the stadium parking lot, north and south student lot, as well as the East Ring Road. Those will be significant replacements just because of the sheer volume of parking lot. But those should be a 1-for-1 also. And then high school, we're looking at reconditioning the tennis court sets and then replacement of the east set, which has had some water problems and some deflection of concrete and the tennis courts themselves. We are tag teaming those round of brown projects with some singing run projects for bidding purposes. So Creekside will be getting new boilers. Building 51, we're going to do some HVAC replacement over there to bring that up to today's standards. Replacement of some domestic water piping, replacement of the pool lighting, which has been a problem. It gets really hot up there, and those metal halide lights do not do well in hot, humid areas. So those will be switched over to LED, and then we'll be replacing the round gym lights, which I'm sure the gym teacher over there and Dottie will love because those have been a problem. So other than that, we're just in the planning stages. We're hoping to bring that before you tentatively right now at the December 18th board meeting. So, okay, any questions?
I do have one.
Yeah.
So you were talking about lighting and it being hot, and then you said LED lighting. Isn't LED lighting really hot?
Nope, not usually. It can fare much better in the hot, humid environment. So what I was talking about was actually the environment itself at the pool itself. So the pool itself runs about, environment's about 80, 85. And then when you get up to the very top, it's even hotter. And so it can fare a little better than those metal halides can, because those themselves get hot themselves.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. So, okay.
Thank you, Matt.
Yep.
And then a reminder to the community, you can go to our website and check out all of the bond information, everything we've accomplished, as well as our sinking fund and how we've spent sinking fund over the life of the sinking fund. So it's all there for anybody to see, transparent on our main website. All right. So ends the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. Item 1F, call to the public. This is just a reminder that speakers are asked to express themselves in a civil manner with due respect for the dignity and privacy of others who may be affected by your comments. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. I will hold up my yellow folder right here at a 30-minute mark. In addition, I just want to remind the public that we will not tolerate any interruptions. We will not tolerate any heckling, any of that. We are very thankful for our deputies. We have Deputy King here today. And if we can't act like adults, you will be asked to leave. Alrighty, let me get my timer. Tell the first person up. Our first speaker is Miss Barbara Tonkovich.
Thank you once again for letting me speak. Okay, first thing I was a little concerned about is last October around this time, I always read the community newsletter, and there were some kids dressed up for Halloween and stuff. I didn't know whether that was initiated by the teachers allowing it or what. But my concern is allowing a satanic pagan Halloween celebration, but disallowing Christian holidays. Christmas is one thing. And I think it's a bit hypocritical that Christmas isn't allowed in the public arena of the schools, not just here. Okay, my second thing is, make-believe is one thing children do, but school is for learning and not foolishness. Mental health issues, which we've talked about for months now. Parents are enabling by allowing this foolishness, and the school system is also. Just a comment. Perception is not reality. Feeling is not reality either and can be deceptive. I've run across an article. There's transgender, but have you heard about transhumanism? This is artificial intelligence. And this is going to be the next big thing coming up. regarding DEI, the only equity is in Christ. And I'm not going to read the scripture, but it's in Colossians 3:11. Also, Darwinism was racist and promoted it. He was anti-Semitic. Evolution, then, is a racist theory. And lastly, regarding your RRR, scripture talks about this too. Reason. God says, let us reason together. Respect. God is no respecter of person. And responsibility. Each and all will be held accountable for the choices that we make. And that's all I have. And you see my little note at the bottom of my card.
I will read it.
Okay. Okay, would you?
It says, have a blessed Thanksgiving. Mrs. Tonkovich, would you like to read this? I'm very sorry.
Actually, one of my little slips.
Perfect.
But it's not the same thing. If you never accept Jesus, you will always have troubles and do the wrong thing. Your heart is evil from birth until it is renewed by Jesus, his Holy Spirit. So what Megan was reading, have a blessed Thanksgiving to God, because that's what Thanksgiving's history is all about. It was Thanksgiving for God and what he gave the Pilgrims and the Indians for his graces, and have a blessed Christmas in remembering the God's resolution for us all is found in Jesus Christ. See you all, Lord willing, in February. The snowbird is going to be taking off. Well, she's going to be driving. Thank you.
Can I have your yellow sheet back?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much. Safe travel.
Yeah,
Yes.
safe travel.
Thank you.
Travel safe.
Next, we have Jeff Scott.
Good evening. So, as most of you know, for the last couple of months, I've been talking a lot about student safety and how there was one particular incident that I thought the district didn't handle very well. And I want to thank President Glaybach and Superintendent Hughes for working with me and reaching out to the Livingston County Sheriff Office to kind of put some, I think, good guidelines in place, a good understanding in place of what the school's role is in criminal investigations and what the county sheriff's role is in those investigations. And I feel like the result of that will give a good roadmap for the district and for the sheriff's office going forward. So thank you for everyone for that. Now, part of that, you know, I made multiple FOIA requests and was kind of looking into what, how the district goes about and processes certain things. And I came across a couple maybe policy gaps that I think it would be important for the seven of you to kind of look at. The first one might be too big to tackle, but it's really how the district and how you handle the Title IX complaints and separate them from the criminal actions. And I understand that's a difficult task. But I think it's important that there's policies in place that help the district administrators and anybody going through that process to really identify the differences and make sure that, again, that the criminal investigations are handled by the sheriff's department and Title IX is handled separately, and that there's maybe some documentation at every step to make sure people understand what's going on. Second, I think it's important maybe that you have policies that require the administrators to notify the trustees when certain things are going on. maybe most surprising in all of this was that while this whole incident was taking place, there was no formal written communication to the board about the criminal investigation or about the Title IX complaint. And I feel like if the 7 of you have the ultimate responsibility for what goes on in the district, they should make sure there's some checkpoints in place that you actually know when they're happening. And then the third item is a little separate from that, but something that Trustee Blondell brought up in the last meeting, about how the district handles the information that they pass along to the Department of Justice, especially as it relates to our students. And I don't believe there's a policy in place for that. I did some cursory searches. I didn't search everything, but I think that's important for parents to know what's going on. Lastly, very quickly, I wrote an email to everybody, but I want to say I had a chance in the last few weeks to meet 2 of the security guards that have been hired, and they were fantastic. I watched them interact with students, staff, take part in district activities, and they were absolutely amazing. So thank you to all of you for bringing them on board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Mr. Len Patillo. Last but not least, Aaron Dennis.
Good evening. My name is Erin Dennis, and I teach here at Legacy High School, and I'm also the student mentor for our students that are enrolled in Heartland Virtual Academy. I wrote to you last month after the meeting to provide a little bit of awareness about our programs and the students that my colleagues and I work with every day. Many of you responded, and for that, I thank you. Given the conversations that followed, I wanted to make sure that my point was understood because I feel like I may have missed my mark. My point was this: Heartland does not have one high school, we have 3. Oftentimes we hear things about the high school. The high school did this, or the high school represented us, or the high school teachers. And that high school's reality oftentimes does not match the one that my students experience. While Legacy High School and Heartland Virtual Academy students can and do participate in programs and activities offered on main campus, they don't see themselves as Heartland High School students, and lumping them in that way doesn't really fit with what they do. Each of these campuses has their own strengths and weaknesses. The small size of my 2 schools means that we have the ability to really capitalize on the family feel. I know the names of our entire student body and how every single one of them is doing in all of their classes, even though I only interact with about 1/3 of them on a daily basis. On the other hand, our small size means that we can't offer some of the same services that main campus can, or have to offer them in a different way. My point in reaching out to you was simply to point out that we sometimes inadvertently negate the experiences of these 76 students by calling it the high school instead of Heartland High School or HHS or main campus when we're talking about the things that happen there. I wanted to point that out to you because sometimes there's high school opportunities and there are Heartland High School opportunities. I wanted to tell you that this happens so often that my students notice when they are specifically included and treated as equals instead of anomalies or as an afterthought. My point was not to spotlight accolades of certain students or certain events in our schools, or to make this a one-time look at what goes on here. While the fact that we have athletes, actors, college and shared time students is great, it isn't great because they happen to attend Legacy or HVA, or in spite of statistically that they've overcome more adversities than their main campus peers. It's great because they're Eagles. Eagles who happen to go to Legacy or HVA, just like it was great when they were in elementary school and they did great things and went to Creekside, Lakes, Round, and Village. My point was that some of us don't understand Legacy and HVA and who's there and why they're there. I say some of us because until I started working there, I had my own misunderstandings and misconceptions about what was going on there. And when we know better, we do better. My students all needed something different from their school experience. Some needed second chances. Some needed hallways that were easier to navigate. Some needed someone who they knew has walked in their shoes. Some of them needed time and space to pursue their passions. But they are and always will be Eagles. Thank you.
Thank you. I am now moving on to item 1G, board reports and requests. As I continue to note and request from my colleagues at the board, that we keep all personal feelings, thoughts, items off of the board table and take those out one-on-one and stick to district business as we move through our board reports and requests. Want to kick us off, Ms. Fleming?
Certainly. Thank you very much. And thank you, Mrs. Dennis, for the reminder, because it is very important, and I agree with what your sentiments are, and I will do my best to include all the high schools, because I agree with you, and I'm sure you have fantastic students that do feel overlooked, and that's not fair. So we need to be fair, and I'll do a better job as well. I also want to let everyone know that I took a tour around elementary. And Dottie and I had a great day. It was really fun. I mean, that's where my kids went, and it was fun run day, Dottie's idea. So I did it again. It was my 4th fun run, and the PTO did a great job. They couldn't go through the woods like I was used to with my kids, because there was poison ivy. But then I don't know which teacher said that, was it Mr. Waski? I'm not sure, that said that there were goats that we could rent and put out in the woods so that they would eat all the poison ivy. So that was it was a great idea, and I think something that we should pursue, because the kids really enjoyed running through the woods. But it was a great success, and what I saw there, I was very pleased with. I was very impressed with a lot of the changes, the updates to the schools from what I remember. The staff there friendly, happy. The children clearly were happy, because not, I mean, some of them were following Dottie around, they had, asking lots of questions, but, I mean, nothing detrimental or, to their state. It's just really a great experience. I came home in a very good mood, and I was very pleased. So I will be joining her again, and looking for more opportunity to highlight the wonderful things that are going on at Round. So I want to thank Dottie for that, and so I think that was great. I think that Rachel did a great job. I know that that's a big thing to go through an audit, because my company, we go through audits, and it's very nerve-wracking. You're not quite sure, exactly what they might find, but with such glowing review, I think you did a great job. So thank you very much. And with that, I yield.
Thank you, Mrs. Fleming. So moral of the story is you're never going to get on a fun run.
I do want to say one more thing. So Greg, what a great idea for Greg to come up with, for us to be, to go to a school and be the that role. I'm very, very glad that you came up with that. So thank you very much. Gives me a good opportunity. So thank you. And now I'm done.
The never-ending fun run.
Never ending.
All right, Mr. Keller.
All right, thank you, President Gleibach. Not a lot for me today. The only topic I really wanted to kind of share with my colleagues and the public is there was a personnel committee back in September the 21st, and there were some notes available for the community to review. I did want to highlight a couple of things that I thought we could have included in that as well. One of them was with respect to the survey that as a district, we decided we want to move forward to try to get some good feedback from the students. So there will be a note going out to parents. So take a look out for that. If anyone wants to, Mr. Hughes graciously agreed to show the survey questions to anybody who wishes to see them. And I think the last one was just regarding some of the interview questions that I know some of us on the board have had, I guess, not necessarily concerns with the hiring process, but with us being kind of the end of the line and not, there's really not an opportunity for us to get the opportunity to also participate in that. And so one of the thoughts was to have kind of a couple of questions that we could ask of any potential candidate via Mr. Hughes or Mr. Minsker or Mr. Van Epps, kind of as the final welcome to Heartland interview. And so I'll be working with Chris and Kristen, hopefully, and anyone else who has any feedback on what questions they'd like us to ask. But I think it's kind of a good way for us as a board, because obviously if just getting a resume was all it took, then, you know, there would be no need for interviews, right? So something that I think as a board, I'd like to make sure that, you know, we are participating in that final approval. And with that, I have concluded my report.
Thank you, Mr. Keller. So just for my understanding, Personnel Committee is going to develop those questions and then push the rest of the team for consideration, in which we'll then share.
Correct. I don't know that we have to necessarily have a vote on it, but
Yeah, but
I think it's an offline thing that we can make recommendations for.
okay, perfect. Awesome. Thank you. Mr. Costa.
Thanks, Mrs. Clayback. Sorry for being late, I had a commitment couldn't get out of, so glad I made it. So Mrs. Dennis kind of stole my thunder, which is great. So I don't have to go into detail, but I did reach out to Mrs. Connolly, and I have an email, I have a lengthy phone conversation, and kind of Mrs. Dennis explained what's happening here at HVA and Legacy and how they are another high school, and oftentimes we do overlook them. You know, she gave me a list of things. You know, they have people here that are on the football team, they have people that are on drama, they have people that are in chamber choir. They have people that are dual enrolled. They have students here that are CT programs, like fire program. They have a lot of wonderful things happening here. But what she hammered home was the family aspect, about how there's an opportunity to mentor those 10 students you get, and there's different things she mentioned every day. She kept hammering home the fact that it truly is a family. And it's hard to judge success on that, whether it's, I know there's issues even at the high school, HHS, with attendance and how that could be an issue here. And if you can overcome that issue of attendance, that's something that you can celebrate. So she could have gone on and on and on, and so could I, but it is true. They do deserve their recognition. So I hope that Mrs. Dennis, this comment did something for them. And I'll be sure to circle back come spring, because there is a lot of great things that happen here in this building. With that, I'm all set.
Thank you, Mr. Costa. Mr. Gogolewski, what you got for us?
Thank you, Megan. I was lucky enough, back on Friday, the 29th to, I had some time in my day to stop by a couple of our schools. And the first one, I went to Heartland High School and spoke with Principal Fitzgerald. And one of the questions that I had for him was how the school and the students and the staff were coping with the situation of losing one of our Eagles, and how that's going on, how that's progressing, what kind of issues are coming up. And Mr. Fitzgerald was very positive about the tremendous amount of support from not only the community, but the very good work of some of the counselors, and he felt that that was going as well as could be expected. So we're not dealing with a massive amount of negative fallout. Things are progressing. Students that do need counseling are getting it, and he was very happy about that. Also, too, we had a big homecoming week, which was a huge success. Spirit Day participation was real strong. We had, and this kind of blew me away, we had just under 1,100 students attend the dance, which, wow, that's quite a crowd. The other thing too is that our football team got a nice win over Howell, which is really exciting because I kind of think of Howell as the Ohio State of Livingston County. So I'm very glad we got our win there. The band, cheer, and prom teams performed well, And the homecoming parade, which I'm sure a lot of you recall, homecoming parades were a big deal years ago. And we had one this year, and that was a nice addition. A lot of families enjoyed that one. Also at the high school, the first year cadet teachers went out to their placements this week around the district. And they were really excited about that. And there was a lot of enthusiasm from that group. And I just want to say to Mr. Aldred and Mrs. Wozni, you've done a great job of prepping them. And that seems to be going well so far. So moving on, I got to visit Lakes Elementary and just kind of adding on to some of their accomplishments. The credit union program that they have is that's just phenomenal for it. I don't know how many times we're asked about why are you not teaching, certain life skills and such. To have a group of children in that age range deal with things like finance and banking and what have you, that's incredible. That's very, very good. One thing that's really near and dear to my heart, Mrs. Fraser told me that the Lakes Highly Capable group began meeting last Friday, and it's a group of 24 third and fourth graders, and they're going to be meeting 2 times per month to kind of learn and kind of grow together. And we have a lot of good programs in this district for students that need special attention and help. And sometimes we maybe not give as much attention to those that are maybe excelling a little bit and might be getting a little bored or antsy. And this is a great program. The Highly Capable program really allows those students to kind of connect, bond, and make some good friendships there. And this is a great thing too. This is another item that Principal Fitzgerald, Principal Frazier, I'm sorry, told me about. Mrs. Villar's 2nd grade class has begun their annual Pen Pal partnership with seniors in the community. And again, this is going back to sort of a community outreach thing. And that's a great kind of program to get students to communicate with people outside of the classroom and seniors that I'm sure appreciate it. So very good job over at Lakes. Very good. Along with that, one last thing too. It was mentioned earlier, and I believe Mr. Scott, when he was up at the podium, mentioned about meeting with some of the security staff. I've had the great fortune to speak with the student resource officer at the high school, the main Heartland High School, Brian Schuff from the Livingston County Sheriff Office. And it was really, really great to see him interact with our students. Just exactly what we were hoping for. And that went really, really well. I was able to witness that, talk to some of the students, just a great relationship that's going on there. Same thing with James Mead over at Lakes Elementary. And I've also had the pleasure of meeting Randy Mintz over here at the central office. And one of the biggest goals that we wanted for this security program is to have those individuals be sort of liaisons between students, staff, community, and law enforcement, or if they're not on the sheriff's department, at least for protecting our schools. I think that's doing really, really well, and it was really good to see. So with that, I'm pretty much done.
Thank you, Mr. Nowalski. Mrs. Shaw? Thank you. The only thing for me is I just want to congratulate everyone that we had our award ceremony on Saturday for the art walk. We had over 130 pieces of art. Colby was one of our winners that was here earlier. I think the feedback and participation in it was so outstanding. We definitely plan on bringing it back next year, bigger and better. Looking for more locations to host art, and of course involving more of our students. I mean, we sort of got a later start this year, but now that
art teachers know throughout the district that this is something we're gonna do every year. And speaking of art teachers, congratulations to Mr. Etheridge at Heartland High School. Art teacher, he won an Excellence in Education Award from the state of Michigan. If you get a chance to go look at the article, the student who nominated him, the story that she wrote, and what you will learn about Mr. Etheridge will bring a tear to your eye. Just an example of what goes on in our district every day in all of our buildings, the amazing people that are in front of our kids every day. So congratulations to him. And that's all I have. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Shaw. Mrs. Coleman.
Thank you. Like Chris seemed to have suffered from this earlier. Kim Konarski stole some of my thunder tonight. I was going to talk about some more of the great things that the senior center is doing, and there were a couple that Kim didn't mention that were on my list. They're actually doing a Tony Saccos fundraiser on October 25th. So 20% of all their sales that day will go to the senior center. So a great day to either eat out, and I think you can even purchase gift cards online. So great cause. And then they also do a fall pickleball tournament, and I don't believe you need to be a member to play. Am I right? Do you know? Okay. And that's November 3rd through 5th, and you need to register by the 20th of October. And they're also looking for volunteers to help run that event. So if you're available and can help, please join in. They're obviously a great group of people. And then the other thing is for my colleagues here at the table, there's an additional copy of the agenda. It's a sample draft watermarked in. Renee put this together, and it just demonstrates what today's agenda would look like if we choose to pursue, which I think we're going to pursue, the consent agenda as part of the overall agenda. So those items, they're in 1B on that sample agenda. Things like approval of the agenda, approval of the minutes, payment of invoices, and then also if we have any new hires, those would also go in that consent agenda. And it would just take one board member to say, you know, I want to discuss more about the minutes, so let's take it out of the consent section, and then we take it out. And then that would just become the next item on the agenda. So we can do all of those things instead of taking separate votes for each of those items. If there's nothing that needs to be discussed, we can leave it in that one vote and call it done, make it a little bit simpler. And then that also, for any new hires, we would obviously approve in one fell swoop, but I would propose that we add to Chuck's superintendent report in a month where we have new hires, add a line in his, or an item in his superintendent's report that is to introduce the new hires. So we would still get to meet them, they would still be welcomed as we normally do. So just something to consider. And then the other item, Renee also handed out to us a copy of our policy 0166 for the agenda. And it's just to take out the reference to item 1E for call to the public. Because that may change if we needed to adjust how the agenda is set up, but it's really not necessary, I think, to have it in there to note a specific agenda number or item number. So just for your review, but we hope to put this in place for next month. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Mrs. Coleman. I guess being last to report out, everyone steals my items on my list. Nonetheless, I would like to thank Mr. Keller. I think that the program that you pushed forward has been really beneficial. I think it's been really beneficial to create relationships and you know, create some visibility where folks might not have visibility, especially if they don't have kids in a individual building or so on and so forth. And so I want to thank you for that. I think that's pretty stellar. And if my colleagues here at the table can continue to report out on your visits with the schools, that would be super stellar. I think that's awesome. I do want to thank my colleagues at the board table, as I know, you know, through discussions that obviously I'm trying to put additional structure into our meetings. So thank you for being respectful to my requests. And having a really great board report out. I think that that's awesome. I think many of us were sliding in here on our last fumes for the day. And you know, it's great to hear the positivity and the impacts that you all are making through the district. I did get to visit Creekside and I met with Mrs. Way. I took a tour. Saw some wonderful items that the students were working on, in particular a mural that they were working on. And then I think some super cool ideas they have within their STEM center. I'm trying to understand how to bring items like a greenhouse inside over the winter and things like that. They have a very, very successful fun run as well. And I think Mrs. Way is probably running out of ideas to ask her PTO for, which is a good problem to have. It's a good problem to have, but they've had some great spaces redesigned out at their playground, and you know, have the ability, they have little pods at Creekside, and so each little pod has been redesigned as well to create spaces that is appropriate for that age group. So kindergarten's pod looks a little bit different than fourth grade pod, but lots of really cool involvement from parents, from their PTO, from teachers. It was great to kind of see some folks in action. You hear a lot of names, and to see them in action is a whole different story. So thank you very much. Congratulations, obviously, to all the Art Walk recipients. If you have not seen the Eagle Wings over at the auxiliary field, it's behind the storage shed. Please go take a look. The artist that painted that really captured everything. I don't know that there's an activity that's not captured on those Eagle Wings. It is insane. And so super, super cool, a graduate of Heartland, and very talented, just when I think I might be a little crafty. I got nothing. And that is the end of my report. We will be moving on to item 2A, payment of invoices.
I move that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Chief Financial Officer, approves the financial report as of September 30th, 2023, and the payment of invoices totaling $7,189,868.78, and payroll obligations totaling $4,760,849.74.
Support. Motion by Mrs. Coleman, support by Mrs. Shaw. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none. Mr. Goleski.
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw. Yes. Mrs. Coleman.
Yes.
Mr. Costa.
Yes.
Mr. Keller.
Yes.
Mrs. Blondell.
Yes.
I'm a yes. That motion passes. Item 3A, future meetings. We have a future meeting November 13th, 2023 at 6:30. And then December 18th, 2023 at 6:30. Item 3B, informational items. Any informational items for the team, from the team, sorry? I have one item. Those of you who are familiar with the district's adoptive family program, it has kicked off. If you are involved in a group, a church group, anything, and would like to get involved, please reach out to me. You can call me, email me, whatever works. Carol is my sidekick as well in this program at the community education office. But please reach out. We will work over the next 2 months to ensure that every student in our district has a wonderful holiday and doesn't go without. So we're expanding that program a little bit more this year to also create some sustainable food options for our students who might need those through the Alta break. And item 4, adjournment. 7:47, guys.
Yeah. Well, so it's a matter of, they might ask, we can do that. Yeah. I'll